Hello and welcome to Matthew Reads, I guess. I am the Eponius Matthew. Did I use Eponius right? I don't know.
Child. Anyway, so
Anyway, I'm talking about Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. I've kind of been sat trying to come up with a smart introduction. I feel like I missed a word out of that sentence, but hey, there's the intro. So yeah, I will say I'm gonna be reading like a lot of my notes for this, so if you see me like looking here, that's just me looking to my notes. Because I'm really bad at just like talking into a camera without going. Either way, for a really smooth transition, like the first point I wanted to make about this book was that I thought it was nice to see, a big, we can say a fat protagonist for once, because I feel like unless it's explicitly stated, like you just automatically assume that like your protagonists are like slimmer. That was that point.
stunning.
So I mean, having in this book, having the explicit statement on the first line being I am fat, well, it was quite nice, and like it was nice to see. And then like literally 2 lines later, like again, I've written down a quote, so I'm just gonna read off my notes. Like literally 2 lines later, it says, "I take up space in the street," and oh my god, did that line hit me because not so much in the street and not so much right now because of Miss Rona. Like, whenever I like took a bus or a train, if I was sat in the window seat, I'd always like crush myself like against the wall, or if I was in the aisle, I'd like perch half on the edge of the seat just so I didn't take up too much space. So I will say from like 3 lines into the book, like this book got me, gal.
They got me, gal.
And then on page 51, the main character, his name is Felipe, which I haven't mentioned yet. He mentions that he feels like he's always being watched because of his size. And reading that just made me want to, say, let me face the wall and scream.
Let me face the wall and scream.
Also, I feel like I should mention this isn't like a specific review or anything, this is literally just like a messed up jumble of my thoughts on the book. So anyway, yeah, like the book itself, the Zoe 101 moment, like it follows Felipe, who doesn't believe that his neighbor Kaio could, ever like him. And the concept is basically his neighbor Kaio essentially comes over to stay in his apartment for like 2 weeks over winter break. And then as time goes on, the two of them get closer because they like learn more about each other and why they are the way they are. Now, they also, it's like it says it pretty early in the book, they had like this unspoken like friendship when they were younger. And like, because where they live in their apartment complex, it has a pool, they used to just like hang out at the pool. And then one day, because Felipe, like, he started getting self-conscious about his body, he just stopped going to the pool. And then, because of that, Felipe gets really quiet, and Kaio, there's this whole exchange where Kaio's wondering if Felipe is just like a jerk or just quiet. Anyway, spoiler alert, I'm gonna give you a few seconds now and I'm gonna wang it up on the screen. Yeah, anyway, Felipe falls in love with Kaio, we love that. And like, Felipe mentions to the reader that he wishes he had like a best friend that he wasn't in love with to talk to about Kaio. And then, in terms of the story, I'm just gonna like skip ahead to the end, and I don't really want to spoil the story because it was only released in English, like in 2020. Like it ends with wholesome self-acceptance, which I was a fan of, because I won't lie, in my first relationship, I didn't end up feeling what Felipe felt, so
That's so upsetting.
I was glad that he got to feel it. Now, I will also say I was expecting the book to, go on a little longer. Like, maybe I'm just used to the books that I read being a little longer, but I just felt like the whole thing went on pretty quick. Like, it's 273 pages, and I mean, there is a quote on, like, the front and the back of the book of, like, from Rainbow Roll saying that they, read it in one sitting. And I don't know, I feel like I was kinda hit with something similar to that. Like, I think this might have had something to do with the fact that the conflict of this book, like, it all came internally, like, within Felipe, as opposed to something externally. So, like, the things that, you know, Felipe had to overcome were all himself, if that makes sense. Now, obviously, since a lot of this book is about body image, I think it actually, you know, dealt with it pretty well. Because, like, there were definitely moments in Felipe that I saw of myself. I think I might have worded that wrong, but you know what? We're gonna deal with it.
Sorry to the
Sentence. And then I'm just gonna read another quote from my notes. Like, on page 135 it says, "If I was skinny, I'd walk around everywhere just being thin." Which I agree with, because it's obviously the way that when you are fat, you think about, you know, skinny people and thinner people, because you're just like, oh, they're really skinny, they have it so much easier. Like, you, for the most part, you just do think like that. But then this moment a little bit later comes, like, when Felipe is with Caio, Caio's best friend Becky, and Becky's girlfriend Melissa. Like, the four of them are at the pool at Felipe and Caio's apartment complex. And then neither Felipe nor Melissa, you know, initially get into the pool. Like, we know that Felipe doesn't want to get in because he doesn't like his body because he's fat. And then when Melissa is introduced, like, we are immediately told that she's really skinny. So the whole thing there, it was like two people on, like, the opposite end of, like, the body size spectrum. So I am glad that the book included that, because I felt like if you're just, like, dealing with, you know, a book about, or that includes, like, body issues, you do run the risk of it being a very boo skinny people book. And like I said, this book didn't feel like a boo skinny people book.
But wow, what a moment. I will never forget.
Also, speaking of being fat, I won't lie, I am not the skintiest around, let's not lie. But there was this guy that I dated once. Does this have much to do with the story? No, but I'm gonna say it anyway. And I don't want to, you know, talk shit about the guy, but let's just say he had a type. Like, there was this one point where, like, me and him, we were just talking about, like, celebrity crushes. Like, mine at the time was Colin O'Donoghue, because I was watching Once Upon a Time at the time, and I thought Captain Hook was fine as hell.
Like, what do they say?
Called white man's whore.
And, his ended up being this wrestler that I don't know shit about wrestling, so I ended up Googling, and I will say I noticed that I had a very similar body type to this wrestler, shall we say. And then, like, one day we were just, like, out walking around in town together, and, like, we ran into one of his exes, which, fair enough, that happens if, like, you and your ex, like, live in the same city. Fair enough on its own. But the thing was, this ex, that was the point where I was like, oh, so this is a pattern. Like, it's not just a one-off thing. Mary, this is a pattern.
Girl, prison, honey.
Like, because his ex had the same body type as me and his celebrity crush, so... And to phrase it nicely, let's say someone who is larger. That's the nice way of putting it. Also, my ex also wanted me to always sit on his lap. So I don't know if that was something he was into. But also I never did it because I was, guess what? Insecure about my weight.
It's not stunning.
Either way, to actually talk about the book again. Like, Felipe is horrendously awkward, which we love that, and no offense to Felipe. Like, within the first 20 pages of the book, like, Felipe is yelling at Caio to get out of his room because Felipe took a shower and forgot to bring a change of clothes into the bathroom with him. So, I'd like it to be known, I'm glad that I was reading, you know, a protagonist that struggles. Now, I don't just mean, like, general everyday struggles, I mean, like, struggling with interaction, because it was weirdly validating reading that, if I'm being honest. And then, this is the final point I've got to make, don't worry, like, just to wrap up, I'm just gonna read off my notes again. There was this point, you know, I really loved on page 182 where Felipe mentions that, like, he's spending the day watching a new Netflix show, and he says that it's terrible, but that he's nearly done with the entire first season in a day. And that's how I feel about Riverdale. Like,
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football.
the show is a hot, shitty train wreck, and yet I still watch it every week. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I would highly recommend giving it a read. Ooh, the Zoe 101 ooh again. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Bye.